afternoon, everyone. I am the first presenter from Group 1. So today we are going to tackle about preparing to be an effective GMRC teacher. So how to become an effective GMRC teacher in the field. So it is a must for us to learn the instructional planning and development to become an effective GMRC teacher. Now, let's proceed to the instructional planning and development for ESP. So, it is stated that the guidelines on preparing daily log or DLL or detailed lesson plan or DLP will empower you as a teacher to carry out quality instruction that recognize the diversity of learners inside the classroom. So it is said that detailed lesson plan or the DLP will serve as a guide. As a teacher, it will serve as a guide to be an effective in teaching our learners. So it was committed to learners' success, allows the use of varied instructional and formative assessment strategies, including the use of information and communication technologies or ICT, and it was enables the teacher to guide, mentor, and support learners in developing and accessing their learning across the curriculum. So this DLP it was enables us as a teacher to guide, mentor, and support our learners to learn more and to become an effective teacher. Let's proceed to daily lesson log or DLL. It is stated there that the daily lesson log or DLL, it is requirements to all novice teacher with no teaching experience to prepare daily lesson plan. The case is different to teachers with at least 1 year of teacher experience, including with teaching experience in private school and higher education. So it is only in teaching experience in private school and higher education. So they are required to fill out a weekly daily lesson log. So what is daily lesson log? So there are actually different templates for DLL such that it is intended for kinder grades 1 to 12 with Filipino translation for multi-grade and in preparation for alternative learning system or the ALS. So anyway, all of its parts do not differ much except from the scope and the daily attendance. So here are the objectives of a daily lesson log or the DLL. So this part of the DL includes objectives related to content, knowledge, and competences. These lesson objectives describe the behavior, performance teachers, and what learners exhibit in order to consider them competent. So the objectives state what the teacher intends to teach and serve as a guide for instruction and assessment. So this daily lesson log is very important for us as a teacher or as a future educator. So because it will serve us to be the guide of what we are going to teach to our learners. So the content standards refers to the learning area-based facts, concepts, and procedures that students need to learn while the competences pertain to the knowledge, skills, and attitude that students need to demonstrate in a lesson. So the competency codes are also lagged in these parts of the DLL.
Now, let's proceed to the content. The topic or subject matter pertains to the particular content that the lesson focuses on. This depends on the learning area and grade level that the teacher is teaching. So, content. This is the center, or this is all about the topic that are focused on. It depends on the learning area and grade level that the teacher teach. So next is learning resources. It is the part where the teacher log the references on other learning resources that the teacher will use for the lesson. So learning resources, when the teacher log the references in the on other learning in order to use in the class. The references include the particular pages, teacher's guide, learning module, textbook, and additional materials from the Learning Resource Management and Development System portal. This part of the DLL can also include the supplies, equipment, tools, and other non-print materials needed for activities before, during, and after the lesson. So, learning resources, dito ay mga references na kung saan ang mga guro ay doon kumukuha ng mga guide, particular pages like teacher's guide, learning module, and additional materials. Next, let's proceed to procedures. So, procedures, this part of the DLL has 10 subparts such as the following. So, reviewing previous lessons or presenting the new lesson. So, when we are in demo teaching, we have to review the previous lesson or recall what the lesson all about. Then we are presenting new lesson. It explicitly teaches learners how the new lesson connects to the previous lesson. So if the topic is have a connection in the previous lesson, you must review or you must recall the previous lesson in our learners in order them to remember what the topic yesterday or. Next is establishing a purpose for the lesson will motivate the learner to learn the next lesson. So when we are demonstrating a learners, we should motivate in order them to encourage or get their attention to our new lesson, and it encourages them to ask questions about the new topic and help establish a reason for learning the new lesson. After that, as a future educator, we need to ask questions to our learners in order them they have an idea of what the new topic is all about. Next is presenting examples or instances of the new shows instances of the content and competencies. So it is very when we are teaching, we should provide more examples in order them to understand the lessons. This is also where the concepts are clarified in order them to clarify the topic, the lesson. Next is discussing new concepts lead to the first formative assessment. So after we are discussing the new concept, we should give an formative assessment in order to know how they understand the lesson. Teachers shall prepare good questions for this part. The teacher will listen to the answers of learners to gauge if they understand the lesson. So the teacher will listen what the student answers and if they understand the lesson. If not, they reteach. So kung hindi pa nila naiintindihan ang isang aralin, we are gathered to reteach them in order to in order them to broaden their knowledge or deepen their knowledge. So after that, we know when we are giving them an assessment, we can evaluate if their understanding is good or not.
And now, let's proceed to the continuation of the discussion of new concepts leading to a second formative assessment that depends the lesson and shows learner new ways of applying learning. The teacher can use pair or group and team work to help learners discuss the lesson among themselves. The learners can present their work to the class and this serve as the teacher's way of assessing if a concept are solidifying and if their skills are developing. So continuation of discussion, it is important especially to the students can understand and process information rather than simply receive it. So the goal of a discussion is to get students to practice thinking about the course material. The teacher can use pair or group and team work to help learners discuss and the lesson among the students, and it serves as the teacher's way of teaching. Developing mastery, which will lead to the third formative assessment. It can be done through more individual work activities such as writing, creative ways of representing learning, dramatizing, or etc. The teacher shall ask learners to demonstrate their learning through accessible activities such as quizzes, worksheets, seat work, and games. When the students demonstrate learning, then proceed to the next step. The teacher can add activities as needed until formative assessment shows that the learners are confident in their knowledge and competencies. So developing mastery, it is also important for the students to practice their skills like in quizzes, worksheets, seat work, and games. Students can actively and participate during the discussion or when the teacher is giving a activities or in any that is helpfully and being developed for the students, and also the quizzes should the next and help to the students to develop their critical thinking and their skills in any of the games. And then next is finding practical applications of concepts and skills in daily living, which can develop appreciation and valuing for students learning by bridging the lesson to daily living. This will also establish relevance in the lesson. So finding practical applications, it is a skills in daily living which can develop the students to appreciate and valuing their learning and daily living. Making generalization and abstraction about the lesson will include the lesson by asking learners good questions that will help them criticize their learning so they can declare knowledge and demonstrate their skills. Also, making generalization about the lesson will conclude and asking learners for good questions that will help the students to also criticize their thinking about the demonstration and their skills. And next is evaluating learning is a way of assessing the learners and whether the learning objectives has been met. So Evaluation should tap into the three types of objectives.
Okay, next, let's proceed to daily lesson plan. The newly hired teacher having no professional teaching experience are required to prepare a daily lesson plan DLP for a year in case he or she will get a very satisfactory or outstanding rating in the RPMS, which means result-based performance management systems. However, this will be continued if she could earn only a satisfactory until such time that her RPMS assessment improved. Okay, so when you do the data lesson plan format, you will include the following parts, and that is objectives, content, learning, resources, procedure, remarks, and reflections. Objectives. The lesson plan objectives are statements that describe the expected learning outcomes of the learners at the end of the lesson. The objectives specify what students need to learn and thereby guide learners in carrying out the lesson activities. They also direct the teacher in selecting the appropriate learning resources and methods to use in teaching. The lesson plan objectives should also be the basis for assessing student learning before, during, and after lesson plan lessons. So objectives is the expected learning outcomes of the learner at the end of the lesson. It says that objectives specify what students need to learn in your lessons and guide learner in carrying out the lesson activities.
Content. This pertains to the subject matter of the specific content that the lesson aims to teach. In the curriculum guide, a particular topic can be tackled in a week or two. So, content is important so that students can understand the topic. So, learning resources. This is a list of resources that the teacher uses to deliver the lesson. These include the reference, use, and other resources needed of different lesson activities. A teacher may use teacher's guide, learning modules, and resources available in LRMDS portal used for the lesson. So, learning resources are crucial for both teachers and students. It is a part of the teaching learning strategy to provide teachers with valuable information on various topics. It keeps them updated in relevant information and helps in their professional development. Procedures. The procedure details the steps and activities the teachers and learners will do during the lessons toward achievements of lessons objectives. The procedure describes the learning experiences that learners will go through in understanding and mastering the lesson content. Teacher may utilize procedures that are generally recognized and accepted in their field of specialization. The procedure will also depend on the instructional strategies and methods that a teacher will use to teach the lesson. Flexibility is encouraged in the implementation of DLP procedure. Changes in procedure are allowed based on time constraints or when adjustment in teaching are needed to ensure learners' understanding. So, lesson procedure. Your lesson procedure is an in-depth explanation of how the lesson will progress in the classroom. The lesson procedure is necessary step-by-step instruction that walk you through everything for the time of your students enter the classroom until the bell rings at the end of the period. Procedure is important so that your students have their process on how to do their lesson plan. That's all.